The limitation initiative calls for negotiations to terminate the free movement of people. The timing for this is inconvenient and the issue is delicate. There are economic reasons for a close market connection without free movement, but the EU will hardly offer this. Switzerland will decide on the future of free movement of people on September 27th. If it approves the limitation initiative, the Federal Council must override the agreement on the free movement of persons with the EU within 1 year. Could Brussels offer a hand? The EU would hardly refuse to talk. Switzerland has a good reputation and the Commission is happy to emphasize its open doors. During the coronavirus crisis, thanks to mostly good neighborly cooperation, the relationship did not deteriorate, on the contrary. And Bern is an important economic partner. In 2018, Switzerland was the fourth most important supplier of goods to the EU with a share of 6%, exports from Switzerland of 121 billion Swiss francs, and the third most important foreign customer with imports of goods worth 142 billion Swiss francs for EU products. In January, Federal President Simonetta Sommaruga and Dr. Ursula von der Leyen emphasized the total value and potential of the relationship in Davos. In addition, in June, the EU Commission initially allowed an opportunity to pass on the data equivalence to exert pressure on Switzerland. And with Germany, a neighboring country, currently holds the EU presidency. But that does not mean that Switzerland can expect a positive decision. On the contrary, the evidence is not very promising. The negotiations have already turned out to be unfavorable. The EU is dealing with the aftermath of the pandemic, negotiating a free trade agreement with the UK and arguing about an asylum reform. Swiss desires are just missing there. So how would the EU react to an adoption? The agreement on the free movement of persons is a central part of the bilateral relationship and is closely linked to the other major agreements in the package, says a spokesman for the Commission. The past offers more clues. The Swiss electorate has already given the executive such a mandate. The Mass Immigration Initiative of 2014 required the renegotiation of the free movement of persons by 2017. Among other things, maximum numbers, quotas and priority for residents should be introduced. At that time, the Federal Council held talks and formally submitted a request for revision. But despite intensive efforts by Switzerland, the EU had shown no willingness to take action. That is in the message for the restriction initiative. The then EU Foreign Affairs representative Catherine Ashton wrote that quantity restrictions, quotas and preferential treatment for Swiss citizens contradicted the goals of the free movement of persons. The free movement of people is enshrined as a core element of the EU in the Rome Treaties of 1957. It includes the so-called four freedoms: goods, services, people and capital. The EU member states wrote in their conclusions on Switzerland in February 2019, the Council reaffirms that free movement is a cornerstone of EU policy and that the internal market and its four freedoms are indivisible. For economics, however, close integration into the internal market is conceivable even without the free movement of people. The linking of fundamental freedoms is merely a political dogma and cannot be derived from economic theory, write economists Martin Bramel and Gabriel Felbermayr from the Munich Institute for Economic Research, IFO, into a contribution to Brexit. The EU is already allowing cherry-picking at it, Bramel says. The free trade agreements with Canada and Japan liberalized the movement of goods, but did not introduce free movement of people. However, such models do not offer market access comparable to that in Switzerland. Christian Odendahl agrees. He is chief economist at the London think tank Centre for European Reform. The economic theory states that as long as goods and services are freely tradable, factor prices such as wages and interest will be aligned across borders. Put simply, a sole trader can move to another country and manufacture and sell his product there. But he can also produce and export it at home. However, Bramel and Odendahl also list arguments why the free movement of people has a positive effect on trade. That is the case, for example, if you have to send employees abroad to assemble complex machines, says Bramel. Odendahl points out that the restriction of the free movement of people often actually hinders trade and services. The market also works more efficiently with freedom of movement. For the exchange of goods between two countries, information about the other area is required. The more complicated the product, the more. According to Odendahl, studies show that people are the best such information bridge, as you could call it. The economists also mentioned that freedom of movement is seen by many Europeans as a right of freedom, an important political achievement. It is also part of a larger deal. For many Eastern European countries, the prospect that their compatriots could also try their luck in Western Europe was also a reason for joining, which involved some efforts and opening up their own markets. In principle, the four freedoms are to be found together in a nation-state like Switzerland. If the EU develops in the direction of a state, a combination of freedoms is therefore consistent. But Bramel sees no reason why the EU should insist on this in relation to European countries outside the EU. Countries like Switzerland, Great Britain, Turkey, Ukraine and Serbia want to participate economically in the EU, but do not strive for political union. Bramel thinks that the EU should be even more flexible in order to find other solutions than full membership. Well, to be honest, in this point I totally disagree with him. However, he does not currently see any indications that the EU is moving in this direction. In this respect, according to him, Switzerland must expect a negative reaction if the free movement of persons is terminated. Odendahl too is not sure that the EU would be ready, especially in view of the negotiations with Great Britain, to soften its internal deal. That is, that deep integration into the internal market requires freedom of movement. If the agreement on the free movement of persons is terminated, further contracts could be cancelled. The Federal Council claimed this in mid-February and, in the event that the limitation initiative was accepted, questioned the continuation of the Schengen and Dublin agreements. Switzerland has been an associated member of both treaties since 2008. While Schengen facilitates the EU-wide movement of people, but also the cooperation between the police and the judiciary, Dublin regulates asylum migration. Passport-free travel and cross-border police work are at stake. Is that really the case? Upon request, the Department of Justice confirms that this risk cannot be excluded. Schengen and Dublin are not formally linked to the free movement agreement, so there is no guillotine clause. From the EU's point of view, the free movement of persons during the negotiations was a basis for Switzerland's association with the Schengen Acquis. Schengen and Dublin complemented the agreement on the free movement of persons by facilitating travel in the Schengen area. Shortly before Switzerland joined in 2008, the then head of the FDJP, Evelyn Wittmer-Schlumpf, confirmed the political connection between the agreement with the EU on the free movement of persons and the Schengen Agreement. In the event of a Swiss no on the proposal on the free movement of persons, the guillotine clause of bilateral agreements would override all related agreements. However, Switzerland's Schengen membership would then have to be terminated with a unanimous decision by the EU member states. And if you now want to know more about European politics, YouTube has chosen another of my videos right here for you in the end screen, right next to your chance to subscribe to my channel, which I hope you already did. I'll see you in my next video. Click and enjoy. Viel Spaß!